let them know on Yes Week.
What's that?
I said I'll look for it on Yes Week.
Yeah. You ready?
Yeah, go.
We have got Teed Up Indoors on Battleground at the Teed Up Indoors Golf Shop, Football in Focus, for a Thursday Football in Focus show. We got Bryant Roche with us. And looking back at last week, we didn't have anything going on last week game-wise. We got the projections out, and they got the pairings out, the seedings out, the brackets are out. Got 11 teams out of Guilford County. We should have just put all the teams in Guilford County in there. Got 11 teams in. We felt like most of the teams that got in would be getting it, except that some teams got in we didn't expect to get in, like Western Guilford and Ragsdale, for instance, and they got in with 4 and 6 records. We talked about last week. Paige got in with a 3 and 7 record. Andrews got in 4 and 6 records. So it's kind of interesting how this thing lays out. You got 7 teams in the Metro 40 Conference. That means they must be a powerhouse conference now, right? So you got 7 teams in there. 7 teams. You got the top 4, then the 3 others. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Starts tomorrow night, and round 1, you got Grimsley, Northern Guilford, Northwest, Southeast, Page, Ragsdale, Western Guilford, all the Metro. Then you got from the Mid-State 3A, you've got Dudley, Eastern Guilford, Northeast, and the Mid-State 2A. You've got Hop on Andrews. Let's get down the list. Let's see who goes and who stays after round 1. Let's start with Grimsley. Grimsley against Western Guilford. Who stays, who goes?
I'll go Grimsley stays.
So Grimsley stays, and Western's going to go. Not far. Just go down, Friendly Avenue if you drive that way?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was talking to someone else the other day. I said, it's the only matchup between 2 Greensboro teams in this first round here, and like you said, probably about 10 minutes, maybe 15. I don't know.
Far. Hey, do you think about which route you take? Probably a better route, probably Benjamin Parkway, and then cut through a little cut through down there. But again, if you go Friendly Avenue, it's a straight shot too. But Western Guilford, get on Benjamin Parkway. You have to go up. Well, there's different ways to do that. Yeah, I'd like to. The fun thing would be if you were a reporter or a TV or radio, whatever, or newspaper, had time to get. The old days, go get with the team, travel with them to the game, get on the bus, ride, check it out. It'd be such a short ride. It'd be a fun thing to do.
Not much of one.
Yeah. So Grimsley wins that one. You got them staying in. Northern Guilford versus West Cabarrus. West Cabarrus 5-5. Northern's 9-1. Northern's home, but they don't have their quarterback. He's out. Jackson Kemp, boy, here's out for the rest of the season. So he's gone with a collarbone issue. So you think about it. Here we go. Northern's at home. Got to go to the running game. Got to call on those running backs. Got to call on both those guys run hard. You got both those guys back there.
This game got more interesting because of the quarterback, but I'm still going to say that Northern Guilford prevails, and I think their running game is good enough. I think their defense is good enough. I still, even without the quarterback in this game, I like Northern Guilford.
Amari Akers and Dwight Hall / Lassiter at running back. And the quarterback's going to be what? Going to be C.J. Morrison or Kevin Willoughby? Willoughby?
Well, I guess I don't have it fully confirmed, but I do know that Willoughby was the guy that they put in there against Grimsley when Kemp temporarily went out. So we'll see. I haven't gotten that confirmed, but that's the most knowledge I have on that.
So Northern's going to move on to the second round. Northwest Guilford Charlotte Olympic 8-2. So 8-2 Northwest, 8-2 Olympic. That's a pretty good matchup. A pretty tough matchup for a first-round game. You got Northwest comes in, about a number 11 seed, I think. Number 3 team out of the Metro 4A. Got this tough Olympic team possibly coming in.
Got to admit, I haven't watched a whole lot of film on Olympics, so it's a little bit hard for me to judge, especially with, not having, an easy comparison, if you will.
Like opponents not going to exist.
But those RPI points really like Northwest. And you know what? I'm going to give Northwest the benefit of the doubt, first round, and we'll see what happens. But I'm going to give the Vikings the benefit of the doubt, and they've been playing pretty good football lately. So I'm gonna go with Northwest.
Northwest just got to be careful. You're facing a first round team, identical 8-2 record. Plus you're facing a team that has Olympic experience. That's not easy. That's not an easy thing.
In one way, I guess.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. These guys have Olympic experience because they came right out of Charlotte Olympic. So you got Southeast at Reagan. Some say, I don't know who said. A lot of people. I don't know how many people saying this. This could be the best matchup of the first round. You look at these two teams. Both of these teams, 6-4, I think it is. So that's an even matchup.
That's correct.
And Southeast goes over to Winston-Salem. They'll hop on I-40 West, head that way. Now, Reagan, is that where? Poptown?
It is indeed
Okay,
Poptown.
got it.
Yep,
They'll go over there and check these Reagan Raiders out.
Yeah, so like you just said, out of all the matchups, in this first round, to me, this one is the most interesting. If you want to go to a game in terms of closeness of matchup, in terms of not knowing for sure who's going to win, etc., this is the one. It's two teams, like you said, 6-4. Both of them are fourth place in their respective conferences. Reagan, for the most part, has done very well despite losing their starting quarterback, early in the season. Southeast has had a nice running game, and I really want to see what happens in terms of how they run it, in terms of how Reagan does attempting to stop it. I gotta tell you, this is a really good matchup. Reagan is at home. Boy,
This is a tough call here.
this is a very tough call. I gotta admit.
Going in, I thought
But
we got 11
yeah.
teams going. I thought we'd have 11 going. I thought we'd have 4 remaining after round 1. I thought it would be 4 remaining, and this you can almost guess who the 4 might be. But Southeast Reagan, that's a tough, especially going to that home team, Reagan home team. Yeah.
It's definitely a tough one.
Here's another one for you.
It's a tough one.
Maybe we can look back at this. Maybe not a major comparison. Both these teams have a like opponent in Grimsley, correct? Didn't Reagan play Grimsley?
That is correct.
Southeast scores probably like 49-0 or something against Grimsley, 49-6 that neighborhood. Probably once the score was Reagan. What those two scores possibly were?
Southeast did get it handed to them. Reagan, I did cover that game. It was an interesting scenario. It was the first game without their quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
They did struggle offensively in that first half mightily, but when they went away from a wildcat formation, they did see a little bit of progress with their backup quarterback. He's since come in and I think has done a pretty decent job. I'm going to say this. It's a tough one for me to pick, but I'm just going to say by a smidge, they're at home. I'm going to go with Reagan. They've been pretty battle tested. They've also had a pretty tough schedule. So I'm going to say Reagan, even though I'm not. This is one of those games, trust me, I really had to go back and forth.
Probably talk about this one all week long. You think about Southeast, similar in situation with Northern Guilford because they depend on the running game, not by the same circumstances or set of circumstances, just because they're a better running team, even with a quarterback, Alexander Marsh, although I think Jackson can run. Anyway, they've got the running game for Southeast. The passing game is not a whole lot there, so they got to go with that running game.
They've had moments. And that is a question I have in this game is can Southeast throw the ball with consistency, because they've had their moments. But they have not been consistent in the passing game. I do know that Earl Bates likes to lean on that run, and they have big old Micah Martin at left tackle there. I think we'll see if that pays dividends for them. And, I think if you are Southeast, that's kind of what you're counting on.
And back to that Grimsley Western game, just a little bit more before we jump to the next game on our list here. I think from Western Guilford's standpoint, just an idea, I think they might be better served to try to run the ball than pass the ball against Grimsley, because Western doesn't have much of a passing game, really, not a great one. But again, the running game, I think I would try to get 2 or 3 yards of carry if you can. If you can, I also would try to run some play action with the quarterback, Caleb Moore, roll him out. And so in the pocket, I think he's going to get killed. I think he's got to roll out and try to maybe complete a short pass. This is also about the same thing as a run. And have him hit the corner and run the ball. He does run pretty well, run the ball too. I think the Western's chances are 2 or 3 yards on a carry and I thought too about even bringing in a play clock to Western's practice this week and try to do the old thing, let's run all the way down every play. But I think if you do that too much, you kind of get out of the proper football mode. You're thinking too much about it. So have that in the back of your mind and look up if you can occasionally, try to run as much as you can. I'll put a little sit there, we got to run it down to the last second every time. The timing is going to be important too.
That can take teams out of rhythm, like you said. It can kind of make you, from a mental standpoint,
You're playing too slow.
You're kind of like, here we go. When does it start? You sort of maybe lose your juice a little bit, but it is tough because Grimsley's secondary is so good, and Bryce Davis as a pass rusher has been so good. And so it is very tough. It is going to be very tough for Western from an offensive standpoint. But I think you're right. I think their best bet to have any kind of chance, they have to run the ball successfully. They're going to have to chew some clock, limit the possessions, and also in the last time that they played against each other, Grimsley had a bunch of big play passes, and Western cannot afford to allow those big plays that, number one, eat at you from a momentum standpoint, and number two, just you can't let yourself get too far behind, because I just don't like their chances in a track meet game. It's going to be tough at that.
Here's an interesting game here with Page at Palisades. Palisades or Palisades. You think about this Palisades there, the Palisades Pumas, Page Pirates, Palisades Pumas. Got a lot of perfection for the P's and the places there. That's going to be interesting when they go down there.
There's a lot of P's in there.
Oh, man, you're not kidding. The Pumas, I think it's not bad for a nickname because so many are already taken. I mean, Northern Guilford, I always think it would be good when they came with that one. Because never heard that one before, but the Pumas, or Pumas, whatever, shoes, whatever. I mean, that's a pretty good nickname. I like that nickname. But I think they're a pretty good ball team, too, from what I hear. Not a bad football team.
I don't know a whole lot about them, truth be told. I do like the unique nicknames, but I would say from a Page angle, just because we're obviously a local show here.
Right.
I think for Kalen Hahn and that staff, the playoffs is where that new script starts. And I know they've had mixed results this season. They've had some highs, they've had some lows. They played a very difficult schedule. There's some naysayers out there that say, they don't belong because they're 3-7. So I think this game, they also got an extra week to prepare. Now, they didn't know who it was going to be, but they did get an extra week to prepare for whoever it was. And I think Page, with a lot of young players, that extra week may have helped them,
The good thing is they're getting an extra game out of it, too. The extra game to prepare for next year since they're so young. This really helps Page, as opposed to some teams maybe playing one game and a lot of their guys are seniors and graduate move on. Page, all that experience for next year for these young guys.
A lot of those kids are coming back.
Yeah. So your favorite in this game? Palisades or Page?
I'm gonna go Palisades. I just feel.
So far, I'm with you.
I just feel like it's my gut.
So far, I'm with you.
I don't know much about them, but I'll just go with my gut.
Ragsdale, Watauga Pioneers up around Boone, up in that area, Watauga County, and they've had a lot of storm damage up there, but they're still playing football at 10-0. Ragsdale got in at 4-6. How about this game? How do you see this one going?
I got to tell you, I think Watauga, just looking at what they've done this year. You did mention the hurricane. They took about a month off due to hurricane recovery, and then they stepped onto the field, and it was as if they didn't leave. They have been dominant this season. I got to go with Watauga there.
Western, Guilford at Grimsley, talked about that one. Dudley versus Asheboro at Dudley. Asheboro's 4-6. I just got a feeling this game's going to be rough for Asheboro coming out. I don't think they can compete with Dudley. I think they're going to have Nasir Newkirk back too for Dudley. He didn't play the last game. He was out. I think he'll be back for this one. So I'm kind of favoring Dudley heavy in this. I'm thinking about Dudley and Grimsley both maybe seeing that running clock begin the second half. We'll just see. But I'm thinking that.
This is a game where I think a particular team wins regardless of circumstance, apart from extreme injury and stuff like that. But there are certain times when you do not want to play a team. And in this particular moment, I think Dudley did not have their best game against Eastern. They have an extra week to prepare, even though they didn't necessarily know who they were going to play. They still got a week to work with things. And I just think Asheboro, I hate to, for the people down south, I don't want to, ruffle any feathers here, but I just think they're playing Dudley at a wrong time. I think this Dudley team is going to come motivated. I think they're going to have a chip on their shoulder being a 5 seed instead of being higher. And just knowing that Dudley staff, I think they're going to use every little bit of motivation possible. It doesn't matter what the deal. I think Dudley wins, and I think Dudley wins big.
Making a statement in this game, and Jacquez Crawford, who was injured in the last game, had to sit out most of the second half because he fell on his arm. He also later had a little bit of slight leg injury, a little bit of a neck injury. His mother told me the day before, yes, he's fine. He's in good shape now. All injuries are no problem. He's ready to go. He visited JMU last weekend, James Madison. So you got Barnett up there right now, Alonzo Barnett, the third. He's up there now playing at James Madison now. Crawford visits last weekend. Maybe they're trying to keep that Greensboro connection going there, possibly.
Maybe interesting there.
Yeah. Eastern Guilford at Crest. Could be a tough game for Eastern Guilford. Going to see the Crest Chargers down in Bowling Springs.
Yeah, dude, that's a tough one. I'm going to go with Crest. They've been very good. I know I haven't been in North Carolina long, but from what I gather, Crest is just one of those programs. I know they didn't quite get in terms of winning the conference and whatnot. They're that low 10 seed or whatever. They're an 11. I think they're very good. I think Eastern just isn't quite there. Even though I think if you are Eastern, you're kind of banking on, are we the team that showed up in conference play before Dudley, or was the Dudley game kind of our true colors, or the first few games of the season were those our true colors? I think this is an interesting game against an unfamiliar opponent, and I think it'll give us a good idea of what Eastern really is, however you want to put it.
And Northeast Guilford Rams will be with us in just a few minutes. They're going to be at J.M. Robinson Bulldogs. Looked them up today to find that out. Knew it before, but had probably forgot it. They're 10-0 and tough at home in Concord.
Well, I
think they're better than they were last year, too.
This might sound strange, but the first real taste I got of Robinson in terms of research and whatnot came when a coach temporarily got hired at Southern Guilford
coach, right?
And did not end up, staying there. They have been successful. They're a number 4 seed, undefeated. I think it's hard not to pick Robinson in this game, unfortunately for the McLeansville faithful.
High Point Andrews and Monroe. Monroe 9-0. High Point Andrews won the first 3 games of the season, lost their next 6, and won their last game against McMichael. They had to win. They would have bust all the kids out and took them to another state. So Andrews and Monroe, another tough place to go.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Monroe here. I think Andrews does have some nice momentum at the end of the regular season. They had Avery rush for over 300 yards and a big offensive output. I just think that Monroe just too much.
Kind of funny, but maybe not funny, maybe kind of realistic. You picked the same picks I had. I've got our guys going, unfortunately, 4-7 in round 1. I've got our guys at 4-7.
I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing for our viewers, but we'll see what happens.
Going to be interesting to see how it does pan out. But there's got to be an upset coming in there somewhere. Probably one of the teams we picked will lose. Maybe one of the teams we didn't pick to win, they'll win. Happens like that occasionally too.
It does.
I love those upsets.
We might know our stuff, but sometimes we're wrong.
Sometimes it just ain't happening.
Maybe a bunch of times we were wrong. I don't know.
How about this? How about this potential matchup for round 2? West Forsyth and East Forsyth in round 2. Wouldn't that be interesting?
Yeah, it was a great matchup the first time, and it came down to the final 10 seconds. A rivalry renewed in the playoffs. I know that did happen a couple years ago as well, and East actually, blew out West Forsyth, but I don't think that would happen, this year. That would be interesting.
When they met a couple weeks ago, I think that game was decided in the last minute of the game too. Last minute touchdown, touchdown 6 by East Forsyth to win it down the corner there. Pretty interesting.
So, and West Forsyth, I think they play Cusperson this week. I actually think that's one of the most intriguing matchups involving a triad team in terms of the slate that I looked at. A very good offensive line in West, and Cusperson has a very good
East Forsyth has Butler, is that right? East Forsyth
They
Butler?
do.
Yeah, Butler's about 4-6. Totally uncharacteristic of a Butler team for sure.
I was going to say a little bit down from what I think people are used to, but yeah.
How about this? Off the subject of the playoffs, you got those pretty well covered. Good job covering those. And what about for our power conference next year? I was dreaming up a power conference today of Dudley, Northern Guilford, Eastern Guilford, Southeast, 4 Guilford County teams, then Eastern Alamance, West Alamance, Southern Alamance, and Burlington Williams, 4 Alamance County. That'd be a nice conference right there. I don't know what level it'd be at, but it'd be a nice conference.
That is an interesting look. I know a while back I went through these and I broke them down, and I remember you sharing them actually. And one of the things I was looking at was, how are they going to deal with, like you said, the teams in Guilford County. There are a bunch of teams in Alamance County that are currently 3A teams,
Need
but
someplace to go.
under the new alignment would probably be 6A. So that is an interesting dynamic. I think I came up with kind of a mesh of teams that are currently in the mid-state 3A, and Mount Tabor is also kind of in that sort of, and they kind of are an odd man out.
I was going to send
Atkins is kind of close in that
I was
neighborhood.
going to send Southwest
too, so it's a
Guilford with
little
those
bit
guys
funky.
because Southwest, love to have them over here. But hey, why don't you go to Forsyth, makes it easy to get our conference going. It's Smith, I'll send you over there too. Unfortunately, we'd like to have you in, but we got such a good group here, we have to put some other people other places.
Yeah, so some of those dominoes are
gonna
going
be
to fall. It's
interesting.
going to be
Yeah.
interesting how some of those dominoes fall. And I think if you choose to go one way, I think it all becomes clear, but it's just a matter of how they decide to split some of those Guilford Alamance teams, even teams in Rockingham County, possibly. And some of those teams that are kind of in that Lexington area,
Right.
teams like Oak Grove, the
Ledford.
Davidson schools,
Yeah.
Ledford, those kind of teams. So it'll be interesting to see how they decide to work that out.
So where will you be tomorrow night?
So I'll be at Grimsley and Western, the only matchup of two Greensboro teams that kind of, led me to do that. And also the history. This is the first time Western Guilford is in a playoff game since 2012, going back in the records. So
12 years.
so it's been a little bit of time. There's some history for the Hornets, and I think even though Western did end this season, for the regular season on a little bit of a skid there, I think overall this gave a lot of hope to the West Side, and the people on that West Side really got excited this year. And it's been a little while since we've
And
had
don't
it.
forget to visit the Friendly Psychic. They're on Friendly Drive before you go to the game. The Friendly Psychic is still there, I'm
Well,
sure.
it is at Grimsley.
Yeah, you got to go. You got to drive by the Psychic
So you'd have to
home before you
have
go.
to take a little bit of a
Stop
detour
in.
there.
Well, you
but-
got to drive right by that building on your way up to get off of Friendly Drive on the Friendly Avenue. So when you're going by, just look that way and see what you see in the window. It might be good luck. It may not be. Well, you'll be at Grimsley tomorrow night for Western Gopher game. We'll see you there. Hopefully, I'll be on the visitor side. You may be on the home side. We'll run each other somewhere, and we'll see you here again next week for sure.
All right.
And
As always, thank you for having me on.
always, your next assignment is see if you can land one of those Northeast players where they're playing at the golf course. Let's see if you can get Jackson Hester back here when you walk up that way. Try to
There
get
you go.
Jackson here.
Interesting. I covered a kid named Aaron Hester earlier in my career who was a outside linebacker, went to Florida State, so maybe that's a good omen. Same last name.
And that name Devin Hester was pretty good too back in his day. Chicago Bears return man, played pretty well, yeah.
Yeah,
See if we can get him back here. We're going to take a break, come back on Football in Focus from Teed Up Indoors on Battleground, Greensboro Sports Radio, and GreensboroSports.com.
Thank you as always for having me.